Welcome to the channel. Now, normally we've been playing a run-through of the board game Pericles, the Peloponnesian War, but we're going to take a little break from that, even though Leonidas' Speedo is displeased. Just have some Lagavulin and some haggis, and I'll see you tomorrow. No, today I want to look at Impossible Stars. This is a comic book that I crowdfunded on Indiegogo. It's by Richard Myers, also known as your boy Zach. He has a YouTube channel called Comics Matter, and I'm racking my brain. I cannot remember for the life of me how I first stumbled onto it. I think if someone just recommended it, and I started watching it, even though I am not a comics book guy, and we'll get into that as we go along here. But the guy was a riot. He'd sit there and he'd riff on, the big two, Marvel and DC, and just the recent state of them and how they're not very good anymore. And he'd kind of come up with these riffs, and he'd have me absolutely in stitches sometimes. And I also learned a little bit about how comics are made and things like that. And, well, he's a little controversial because he did get into some Twitter beefs with, comic book pros on Twitter. You know how that goes. And, I think at one point he got the challenge, you don't know what making a comic is like and things like that. And he took that as a challenge and he started making comic books. And because I was like, entertained by him, I finally said, you know what, let's see if we can find something we can support by him. Now, I didn't want to just buy something just to buy something. I didn't want to, own somebody had a Twitter beef with. I wanted to buy a comic that I would actually be interested in. And so I was looking through his stuff. His first stuff was Jawbreakers, which is superheroes, and I don't do superheroes. I just never, even as a kid, I'd read them. Let's see. What was the only thing I can remember from that is Superman versus the Flash. And I had that. And I had that big one, the really big one. I think it's called a Treasury edition or something like that. And I'm probably really misremembering it, but the only thing I remember from it was like the rules explanation. And the first thing I remember is like the referee coming up to explain the rules, and he's he's in the full pinstripe or zebra stripe thing with a white hat on. And I'm like, wait a minute, this race is for charity. I mean, why do you have to bring in like a real referee for this? And the other thing I remember is like the rules themselves. And it's like the first rule was like, okay, Superman, you can't fly. And I'm like, oh, okay. As a kid, I'm like, okay, that's fair. I mean, Flash can't fly, so all right, fair enough. And the other one was like, and I don't understand the Flash's powers, but it seemed like the rule was he wasn't allowed to go into light speed mode or something like that. And I didn't quite understand it. In fact, as a kid, being a lawyer, I'm like, okay, fine. I won't go 186,000 miles a second. I'll go 185.99999, like that. Checkmate. Gotcha. But, yeah, that's all I remember from that. But, superhero, not my comic, not my thing. The other thing was, his other one was Expendables. Expendables Go to Hell. That was the other one I was kind of interested in. But I couldn't really, gin up the excitement for it. I actually went back and said, okay, I'll watch the Expendables again. I seem to remember that was kind of a cool movie. And so I started watching it. And I got to tell you, I watched this other video, and it's called Why Movies Are Getting Worse. And there's going to be a link to it by a guy called, his channel, the guy's name's Thoughty or something like that. And he starts talking about bathos. And this has ruined me for modern movies, I got to say permanently. And, the first thing I saw when I was watching The Expendables again was the bathos he was talking about. And I was like, oh man, I can't even watch this. But so Expendables was out, and there was some other stuff, and I was just like, no. And finally, science fiction, and I was like, ready, I'm in. And so I crowdfunded it, and about a year ago, actually, and yeah, he's late, and people give him all kind of crap about that. Sure, why not? But it's here, and so let's just get down to whether this is actually good or not. That's the only thing that matters, isn't it? So, pardon that abrupt edit. First off, I'll apologize for the glare here. I can't seem to quite get rid of it totally. I'm going to try to do the best here. Be patient with me. And also, I'm taking multiple takes here. I keep being unhappy with the take. And so I keep putting more and more fingerprints on this thing. But we'll start with the cover. And some people were kind of off-put by this little big old no sign in the middle of this star field. And, well, it actually does make sense. And to that end, let's go ahead and just read what this thing is about. As Earth is about to launch the first of its new fleet of FTL faster than light, in case you needed that explained in 2021, spacecraft to explore beyond our solar system, an alien empire threatens us with annihilation if we break the quarantine that they have imposed upon us. After a beam weapon almost destroys a major metropolitan area on the eastern seaboard of the United States, all nations capitulate to the demands of the alien empire. The backup pilot Tyrus Blake refuses to let an alien empire decide the future of Earth. He steals one of the FTL spacecraft and races to test the quarantine, putting the entire planet in jeopardy. The United Nations tasks hero astronaut Aaron Cruz to overtake and destroy Tyrus' ship before it breaks the quarantine, and the entire planet has to pay for his insolence. But Aaron is dealing with some startling side effects from the rocket crash that turned him into an international hero. Well, that is actually a very good summary statement of what this is. This is basically a chase through space story. Nuts and bolts. So, let's get in it. Let me get an edit here so I don't have to keep editing over and over. All right. Can I zoom this out a little bit more? There we go. Okay. Yeah, man, that glare is really bugging me. There's your crew. And the first thing I noticed right off, I mean, I like the art, although I'm no expert by any means. We get this little interlude, and this is basically Tyrus Blake, the kind of the villain of this. Although this is kind of you'll find this is kind of an anti-hero thing, which is kind of one of my criticisms. Hoping in the next issue we'll have someone kind of to root for. But he's here, and he's promising his daughter that he's going to take her into space someday. And he's like, okay, that's interesting opening page. And then we get into something, and this is an important thing. Page 2, we're straight into the action. And that is something that comes up on the channel all the time, where you're just getting just dialogue, just tons and tons of talking, balloons, more balloons than illustrations. And but here, page 2, we're already doing stuff. And this is the first attempt at faster than light travel, faster than life. Crewed by our hero here. This is going to be the Aaron Cruz and his buddy, I forget what his name is, Barry. And I've been trying to date when this takes place in the future. Obviously, we still have the United Nations, we still have the United States. I don't know, what, late 21st, 22nd century, I'm guessing. I went through the book trying to pick up clues on that. I never could. Maybe we'll find out later. Anyway, so they're going to go faster than light, but problems, and they have to abort. And of course he's like, no, and he's like, yes, we have to, and so on and so on. And so they're decelerating at a catastrophic rate. How do you decelerate at a catastrophic rate? I'm not sure. This is not hard science, by the way. This is science. What do you call it when it's not hard science? Soft science? I don't know. Anyway, they end up crashing. Nice illustration of fire and explosions. 2 years later. And apparently, this is Aaron, who's being reconstructed from his crash. Apparently, he survives the crash. Over here, 5 years later, and it looks like we're going to make another attempt to break the jump to light speed. I like this ship. This reminds me, I used to play EVE Online, the Morpagov in space. I had to stop it, just too time consuming. But this design kind of reminds me of some of those ships there. Yeah, I like it. That's what it really brings me to the science fiction things is the ships there. I should talk about a little bit about my role-playing days. I kind of like the fantasy role-playing games, but I really like the science fiction, like Traveler. But the thing I really liked is not actually role playing. I'd get like the High Guard Traveler, which is where you learn how to design the ships, and I would do that all day and just design the ships. I wouldn't actually, play the game. I'd just sit there and design ships, kind of like Car Wars. I'd do the same thing with that. Yep, I digress. I'm sorry. Anyway, they're gonna go into another attempt at Faster Than Light, but no, this is when the aliens strike. A focused high energy beam struck the Earth from somewhere out of beyond the Diex Cancri system. It impacted Eastern Met Center midway between Philadelphia and Old Washington. Okay, so there's a little clue of what's going on in the future. And Smoking Crater. Here's a little kind of a backstory on this villain. And there's his daughter, apparently ill or something, and she's in a med. I don't know if this is a result of the explosion or what. I don't think that's made clear. But look at this. This is like a villain. It has like, even though he's a bad guy, he's got, reasons and things you can almost sympathize with. What's going on here? Characters? You mean character development, arcs, stuff like that? What's going on here? Okay. Anyway, so they make a smoking crater in the city, and we get the aliens actually contact, and they say, you can't leave the solar system. No faster than light travel. Little note here, because Zach's always talking about the floppies he gets and how the ink always rubs off in his hands. Nope. Doing good. Okay. Anyway, aliens have issued their ultimatum. No FTL. And Tyrus Blake is like, I made a promise to my daughter that we're going to the stars. And, he doesn't say it here, but that's the implication. And he says, nope, I'm going to get this ragtag crew here, and we're going to steal the ship, and we're going to get out of here. And she's like, I got to report you. I'm not going to do this. And he's like, well, I'm just kidding. Blah, blah. And then, boom, she's out the airlock. Ooh, cold. Literally cold. Okay, so, hang on, So they steal the ship, the Shinatobi, I don't know how to pronounce it, okay. And, stand down. And they blast their way out of the dock, frying a bunch of people with them. Oof. Blasting out here, a little confused what the action's doing. As this is the space station they're coming out, and obviously doing massive damage to this, and it's a little confusing. I wonder if I can keep up with this comic. And this is the greatest comic I have ever seen. Okay, so here's our hero, Aaron, back from when he was being reconstructed back here. And apparently he's all better now. And I noticed he puts in this blue contact over his amber, I guess I could call it amber eyes. And for a second there, I was baffled. Because, by the way, there is a M. Night Shyamalan plot twist to this. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to spoil that, but I go over here, and this is Tyrus, and he's got those same color amber eyes, and I was like confused. Is this like, when he was getting reconstructed, did he turn himself, was he like this guy, and he turned himself black or white or something, and he's impersonating? No, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is this Tyrus, and he managed to turn himself white and it didn't make sense to me, even though we just saw him steal a ship, so I don't know what I was thinking there. But I just noticed that they had the same color eyes. And it sent me in a little confusion tailspin there. Anyway, she's like, you don't even remember my name. And he's like, whatever, buzz off. And yeah, our hero. So, and of course, I call him General Jonah Hex there. Because that's the one other comic I used to be into. I was into GI Combat. That's the kind of comics I would read. And Jonah Hex and something like that. And that kind of reminded me of kind of the disfigured. Anyway, he hires or commissions Aaron to go after him in the cool ship. Okay. So, where do we go here? I don't want to give too much away here. All right, just kind of moving along here, randomly thing here. So there's cool stuff, cool incidents, like they're coming along, they get into a field of microdebris, which is kind of a cool concept. You're going so fast, then any kind of particles out there are just going to make bullet holes in your ship as you go through. And just what the heck? He's in the middle of chewing his food. And down here, he's still doing it. Oh, come on. And so the ship gets messed up. Now there's one. I guess I got to stop here and and not give the game away. But there's one thing I did want to go over here. Is we get it. He does eventually catch up to the ship, and here he is. We get a little fight scene here, and I guess I'm not a comics expert, but I bet there's a whole thing about how much of the physicality you show. Because you kind of expect this wrench, he's swinging a wrench, he's dodging a wrench, and you'd think there'd be a little swoosh or a little blur going here, a little swoosh, and I can see, you don't want to do the Batman thing with the swoosh and the clunk and all that stuff, but it's almost static, but you do realize what's going on. You got the broken glass here, although I gotta say, broken glass on a starship, and it's like, I saw this video here with a real sub commander, and he's talking about a movie where you don't have glass on a ship.
We don't use glass on a submarine like that, and that's why.
But that's something worthy of discussion. But anyway, I'll stop there. But just to say, like I said, the ships, I really dig the ships. And here's some of the sketch work in the back, and here's a cool blueprint of it. I think this is like a poster. Now that I see it, I kind of wish I think you could have got it with one of the perks or something like that. Oh well. But yeah, the twist at the end is actually quite interesting, and I'm actually ready for the next installment. So that is basically my review of Impossible Stars, and I'll check out his YouTube channel and see if there's any kind of other comics he's got. If this is kind of the stuff he's putting out, I might have to find some other stuff. He's got one called Rock and Roll Ninja. I might have to think about that one. That might be up my alley. If it's still going, I think it's still going. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you.